What if time is not as fixed as we believe? In this video, we explore 3 unsettling accounts from people who insist they lived an entirely different life. Not in dreams and not in imagination, but with full awareness, memory, and emotion. In each case, only moments passed in the real world. But inside their minds, years unfolded. These stories raise disturbing questions about consciousness, identity, and the nature of reality itself. Were these experiences hallucinations, neurological glitches, or something far more difficult to explain? You decide. Let's begin with a story from Reddit shared by a user on the r psychedelic subreddit, posted under the name Park Psychological 738. This story is so descriptive and detailed and a little insane, but definitely worth listening to, as I have never heard of such a bizarre experience. Check it out.
Took a hit of salvia in a bong for 15 seconds laying alone in my bed. The trip lasted for 27 minutes but felt like 15 actual years. I experienced every second of every minute of every hour of every day, of every month of every year without a pause. Every night, I couldn't sleep because I was an object, so I would just wait at night for them to awaken. I still remember this trip like it was yesterday, every single part of it. After I took the hit, I felt like I was coming out of my body. Then in a flash, I was a ceiling fan in the center of a living room. I completely forgot about my life before me and was only aware that I was a ceiling fan. I knew something was wrong, and I constantly wanted to escape, but I couldn't tell why. I only knew that my purpose was to be a ceiling fan, only to observe with no feelings. The first year, there was a semi-fat man who was bald on top and had gray hair around the side of his head like a horseshoe. He had a wife with blonde hair, who was pregnant and would routinely walk around the house naked. They would watch TV together every night. First 3 days of the new year, they are gone because the woman is in the hospital giving birth. Mind you, I was left here alone for 3 days, waiting for them to come back. This wouldn't happen often though, since throughout my lifetime they never went on vacation because they didn't have much money to spend. They always complained about bills and money as well. They came back with a baby boy. The entire lifetime I couldn't register what any of their names were, but I could often hear most of their conversations. It was just hard for me to register because I was a ceiling fan. Throughout the years I watched the son grow up. I realized he was autistic and had a speech impediment, often mouthing sentences and only saying the last word verbally. However, he did become quite handsome with blonde curly hair. I watched the dad, now completely bald, get fatter and fatter. I watched the mom let herself go. I observed countless nights of them inviting their church friends over and talking about pointless subjects while drinking wine. Mostly, I couldn't even understand. The last year things started acting out of normal and it was terrifying. The boy's grandma, woman's mom, died, and even though she never visited and was even never spoken about, the mom sat the autistic son down to explain to him how death works and why they won't see grandma again. As she was explaining, her voice echoed through the room. Her words turned demonic and repeatedly kept saying stuff like, "Grandma's never coming back." Also, I never knew what was down that hallway because I was perpetually stuck in that living room. Final weird event happened before my lift time ended, when the mom put 3 oranges on the ground then walked away. Then when she completely left the room, the oranges started spinning around in a circle. Then when she would come back, the oranges would suddenly stop spinning, and she would put them back in the kitchen. Then finally the dad went to go turn me on for the first time in my life, and I started spinning slowly. After the 5th rotation, I started going third person out of the house, in a bird's eye view. A second later, in a sudden flash, I was laying back down on my bed. It took a solid 5 minutes to realize where I was and who I was. If I told you guys everything that happened in this trip, it would be much longer than the dictionary. Moral of the story: don't do salvia.
The next story is one that you may have heard, but it is so intense and unusual, I had to include it here. A sudden head injury leaves a man unconscious for a short period of time. But during that brief window, something extraordinary happens. His awareness does not fade, instead it shifts. What follows is not a dream in the traditional sense, but a fully lived experience. And then, just as abruptly as it began, everything changes.
My last semester at a certain college, I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. While unconscious on the ground, I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady. She made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years, we got married, and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job, and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch, I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D, but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs and a white square shade. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating. I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first. Soon I stopped that too, as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the fucking lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time, my cognizance was breaking up and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp is not real. The house is not real. My wife, my kids, none of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not fucking real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted dimensions. It took up my entire perspective, and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises, and I became aware of pain. A fucking shit ton of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point, a cop scooped me up, walked me across the sidewalk and grass, and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. Seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive and give CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane, as I would cry myself to sleep, hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says.
The final account is also from a personal experience using salvia. What you are about to hear comes directly from the person who experienced it. Recorded on video, he describes his first encounter with salvia and what followed. For a brief moment in the real world, he was gone. But in his experience, he awoke somewhere else entirely. Time moved forward. A new reality took shape. What he claims happened next would change the way he understands conscious forever.
We load the bong with frosty water and load this huge bowl piece full of this black tar looking salvia stuff that just came in this foil wrapper, a big manly bong rip. And then I felt the floor, and the best way to describe it is I felt like my molecules and the molecules in the floor no longer had anything to do with each other, and I just slid right through the floor of his basement. And there was a short sensation of falling, and then there was a sensation of falling up, and I fell up into a person. I found myself on the deck of this little water skiing boat, coughing up water, and there were a bunch of guys surrounded me on the deck of this water ski boat, who were trying to sit me up and pounding my back and saying, "Man, we thought you drowned," you know, but I didn't know any of them. I was suddenly outside. It was warm. It wasn't Christmas anymore, and I was just that's what I thought that's what this salvia trip was. So I was just looking around and amazed at how real everything was. I mean, we just all jump into their pickup truck and they drive me to this urgent care facility where I go in, and they tell the doctor, they're like, "Hey, our friend was water skiing with us. You know, he fell off his board and was floating face down for a while. By the time we could circle back with the boat and pick him up, he probably had his face underwater for about 3 minutes." So my new friends, none of whom I remember, but all of whom claim that they went to school with me my entire life, take me back to this shitty little apartment that I apparently live in and use the keys that were in my jeans to unlock the door, take me into this little apartment where there are my belongings, with clothes that fit me, pictures of me, with some of them with these guys on the wall, old yearbooks. And they just say, okay, we'll see you tomorrow, try to remember us, ha ha ha, and they leave. And I just sit there on the couch and wait for the salvia trip to end. I'm looking through old yearbooks, looking at pictures of myself, and it's real. Nothing is psychedelic. There are no trippy, there are no tracers, there's no colors. It's just a normal fucking Tuesday.
That's fucking scary.
But I'm starting to get, worried that it's been a really long time. It's been now 24 hours since I've been in this trip. I'm thinking I must be in the hospital in real life, rather than just trying to push everybody away because I thought that they were imaginary. At about the halfway mark somewhere, I started to hang out with my friends and to take them up on offers to go camping and to, we would play, we had this little, they would play guitars and stuff like that after work, and we would just sort of jam, and it sort of turned into a band. There was a ukulele on the couch, and I had not played ukulele before this, but when I picked up the ukulele, I knew how to play the ukulele.
It was 8 years. How did you wake up? How did that happen? Well, I think we'll get to that.
Yeah. Just find myself falling through the grass in this park, and there's the same short sensation of falling, and then that sensation of falling up, and I find myself on the floor in my friend's gun room, and I am having a full seizure. I'm just like, and my wife is behind me, holding onto my head and my arm, and the room is spinning around me, and then I feel it spin and then slow down, and then everything just sort of locks into place molecularly is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the seizure stops, and I came out of it, and I just exploded crying. I just could not believe the fact that I was back. I was actually in Alaska, and my wife, who I thought I had imagined, was there holding me.
Each of these accounts differs in circumstance, yet they share a haunting similarity. In moments where consciousness was altered or disrupted, entire lifetimes appeared to unfold. Whether these experiences are the result of neurological processes, the brain's perception of time, or something we do not yet understand, they challenge our assumptions about reality and identity. If a mind can live years in the span of moments, how much of our lived experience depends not on time itself, but on how we perceive it? And if that is true, then where does reality truly begin? And where does it end? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you like creepy and unusual stories like this, please like and subscribe for more weird, wild stories. Until next time, please stay safe, stay curious, and as always, stay weird.